think sports are overdone.
And what came out of it was a lot of many, many, many ideas. And another time, I'd love to come back and tell you what we learned from that. So after that process, it went back to the city council, and the recommendation to the city council is the following. We recommended that the city consider exploring an interest in creating a senior community, a senior committee. And that would be a committee led by residents, and they'd be responsible for reporting back to city council on any issues that relate to, the elderly. And they can also take an active role in creating social events, programs in the park, programs in the library, chest in the park, any number of things that they chose to do. There was another suggestion of developing an annual senior fair to be hosted in the town center. And this would be a fair where different vendors and resources that are available in our community would be able to come and table. So you could have everything from free rides, meals, services of all sorts, to, special age-centric transportation modes, all together in one place. Now, they have these around in different cities already, but the goal of having one here would be resources that are close to us. So, so that's one idea we want to float out and see what level of interest we had in that. The other one, and there's a few more here. There was a suggestion of creating a senior-focused area in the park. And that would maybe around adding some additional equipment for seniors. It could be adding Tai Chi, could be, like I said, chess, anything, but getting a group of people to see if they're interested in doing something like that. Enhanced communication activities and efforts to engage senior residents. One of the things that came out is not all of our senior residents are online. And the majority of the way we communicate to people is through our emails and through our webpage. So there's a lot of discussion of should we start using more the new local newspaper, for example? Should we do more of that to try to get information out? Anthony has decided he's going to update our website to include a whole bunch of resources. And he's already done some of that that's available, I think, already on the website. So if there's other sorts of resource fairs in the area, we'll be able to pump information like that out to our community and share a lot of the resources that we already have. The last thing on my list here is emergency services. One of the things that came up was, what do we do with elderly and emergency services? And I see some members of ADAPT. Do you guys want to wave over there? If you haven't heard of that, that's our citizen-led emergency response. And last year, they too started to do a new focus on elderly, where they had a program where they're trying to reach out and get people to give their names if they needed a wellness check. So if there was a really bad emergency, all communications are down, your neighbors will come and check on you and come door to door and check on people. So we're trying to set that up as a new program as part of ADAPT. And ADAPT has monthly meetings here in City Hall, and they have really good programs. I'd recommend that. Also, the Friends of the Library, I don't know if Christina's here, but they've been putting on a series of lectures too that are really good. They had a artist, and I don't know what the most recent was, a writer, right? Is that right? A writer that they had last time? An author, yeah. So they started to, it was what? Oh, nice, nice. So we're just starting now to try to reach out and create community. And part of what we're doing here tonight was to see what does everybody want. And I have to applaud Ken and his small group here. They're trying to get this started. So I'm going to turn it over to Ken to get into more detail. And if you ever want to hear more about the other study and all the great ideas, just ask me.
Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate it. So I just wanted a couple of ground rules for this. We're going to have three little vignettes about some topics that might be of interest that people told us they're interested in. They're going to be short 15-minute discussions, not meant to be fully developed, but to give you the idea. And if you like the idea, put it on a list of things we might want to make a longer presentation about. And we'll do that. And then when that's done, which will be another 45 minutes or something, we'd like you to stay around the tables and work as a team. Each table talk about what are the things that you think are important that you'd like to have. We have a list of things, but we don't know that. Is there anything that would get you out of your home to come to a meeting to learn about? That's the topic when we're done. So before we introduce these guys, to follow up on the mayor, one of the things that the task force, and this is the sort of a second to last official effort by the task force, this, and then we write the note to the town council. But the preliminary thoughts the task force had was that we, as I said earlier, create a center of resource for seniors, probably in the library. So if you're looking for anything, resource or anything else, we hope to have a place in the library where we can go. The other rule was not to duplicate any resource that's already out there. If there's a resource already out there, make that a resource available that you know about in the library, but we don't need to spend our time and money doing it. And what the issue with the seniors in Atherton is you're all busy. You all have a life. So what is it that is important enough to get you to come out or to get on the web and see? So what we're looking at the end of the next session is, what are those topics? And when those topics exist, what's the day and time that would make sense? We chose 4 o'clock on a Thursday because the library, Friends of the Library has their sessions 4 o'clock on a Thursday, and they thought that was a good time to do it. ADAPT has their Saturday mornings. And the question is, when do most seniors think would be good to get out and come here for a session? Is it a weekday, a weekend, evening, day, whatever? So that's part of the session. Anyway, so again, we'll move to 3 short highlights, and then we'll break down to these discussion topics. The commander will talk about safety, particularly tuned to seniors, and then we'll get into the sessions on aging at home and on geriatric medicine. Commander, can I have you come over and say a few words about who you are? And then when Jeannie gets up, same thing. Jeannie, introduce yourself, and same with Peter. Is that okay? Great. Oh, sorry. Yeah. When we're done with the presentations, we'll turn off the video because we won't be able to interact in the sessions, but the results will be on the web. Correct, Anthony? We'll post the video. Thank you very much. Commander?
Got to move that back. I can tend to talk loud and I don't want to sound like I'm yelling at everybody with the microphone right next to my face. So good evening, everybody. So my name is Dan Larson. I'm the commander for the Atherton Police Department. A lot of people wonder, well, what does the commander do? In a nutshell, it's everything. I oversee all operations for the police department. So typically anything that goes on, I have knowledge of it. If it's a project, my hands are in it. And so it's a very busy position, but it is absolutely phenomenal. I've been with Atherton for about 10 years now, just a little over. I was brought over to be the school resource officer, worked that detail for a few years, promoted to sergeant, did that for a few years, and then promoted to commander a few years ago, and I absolutely love it. It's just a phenomenal community, and the support that we get from the community is unremarkable. This is actually the 3rd police agency I've worked for, and I have never seen anything like the Atherton community in terms of support and just the good people that live here. It's absolutely phenomenal. And so it's great to see everyone here tonight. And so I'm going to start out a little bit by talking about fraud. And so that's one of the big crimes that we tend to see in Atherton is people being victims of fraud. So I will go over some of the different things that we are seeing within Atherton for fraud. And feel free, this could be interactive. You'll catch on pretty quick as I go through this. So the first one is you get a call from someone claiming a family member is hurt, and guess what they need? They need money. What should we do? Hang up the phone. Hang up the phone, disconnect the call, and then call that family member back on a phone number that you know they will answer on, their phone number. If the person that calls you gives you a phone number and says, call this phone number, do not call that phone number. Hang up, call the phone number that you know for that family member and say, hey, you okay? 99% of the time, they're perfectly fine. And there's nothing that they need to worry about. That was a person trying to reach out to get your money in a fraudulent way. The next one is you get a call, similar thing, saying your family member's been arrested. Well, what do you think we should do? Hang up the phone, exactly. Yes, they probably have not been arrested. And if they were arrested, you would be getting a call from like a collect call from the jail. That's typically how the phones work in the jails. It's a collect call because the state and county don't want to pay for those phone calls and they don't have cell phones. So hey, you're getting a correct call from the McGuire detention facility. Would you like to accept? That's usually the clue that, hey, maybe they were actually arrested. If you don't hear that, they're most likely not arrested. Hang up the phone, give them a call on their own phone number and say, hey, you okay? Got this weird call. The next one, you get someone claiming to be law enforcement. And this has actually happened to us in Atherton, where people have called and said, this is Commander Dan Larson. I'm calling you because you have a warrant for your arrest. And you need to give me money to get rid of the warrant. We will never call you asking you for money. And that is also not how the warrants work. They're typically an arrest warrant, and money doesn't get you out of that warrant. You have to go appear before a magistrate is what the warrant says. So if you get a call like that, once again, hang up, call the police department or whatever the organization is. If they're calling from a different police department, we've heard of it being from us, outside jurisdictions, the FBI, the Secret Service. People call mimicking these people, and they're known to use the real names of the actual officers as well. So if you Google that officer, it might come up and it might say, yes, Commander Dan Larson, Atherton Police Department. You go, oh no, that might be the person who actually called. Call the main line on the police department from the website and say, hey, I got this call. Is this real? Is this not real? Can I talk to this person? Because most of the time, once again, it's fraudulent. The other thing that we will never do is ask you to pay in gift cards. And that is another one of the big things for all of these scams that we're seeing is, oh no, I've got a warrant for my arrest. I don't want to get arrested. That would be terrible. I could lose my job. All these terrible things will happen. How do I get rid of this? Go to your 7-Eleven, get $1,000 of gift cards for PayPal or whatever it is, and then mail them to this address and the warrant will go away. Well, you just gave them that $1,000 of PayPal. We're never going to see that again. And they're going to go on their little shopping spree with their $1,000. So don't ever pay anything in gift cards if it's some kind of debt. That is absolutely fraudulent. Do not do that. Another one that has come up is you get a call or even a letter in the mail that says, I know what you did. They don't know what you did. They have no clue what you did. So that is just phishing. They're trying to get someone to reach out and say, hey, please don't do this. Whatever it is that I did. I don't know what I did, but whatever it is, please don't tell anyone about it. Don't crumple it up, throw it in the garbage. Same thing. Phone call, hang up, don't engage them at all. Just ignore that completely. Another one we tend to see is you get a call from the government or the IRS saying, hey, you owe us back taxes. You owe us more money. And pay us in gift cards. Don't pay them in gift cards. They will never ask for gift cards. And same thing, look up the IRS, Google that phone number, and then call them directly. Don't ever engage with these people. The quicker you could hang up and let them know, hey, you're not playing their games, the quicker they're gonna leave you alone. So absolutely hang up that phone, call the IRS, say, hey, I got this weird call. Can you check my accounts? Is everything okay? And then they'll start looking into it that way and be able to help you out. Another one of the more common ones that we see as well is someone reaches out and says, hey, I need you to cash this check for me. And this one actually, this is an interesting one because it usually happens in person, but it's not the person who's actually committing the crime. They'll find like a courier or a student or something like that to do this for them. And they'll show up and say, hey, I need help. I don't have a bank account. I got this check. Can you cash this check for me? It's a check for $10,000. I only need $9,000 back. You can keep the other $1,000. And a lot of people see that and they're like, hey, yeah, $3,000 bucks. I'll go to the bank for that. Don't go to the bank for that. Crumple the check, throw it in the garbage, tell the person you're not interested, because as soon as you put that check into your account and give them that money is now gone. It will never be seen again. That check is going to bounce, and then it's between you and your bank what happens with the remainder of that money. So be very, very careful of that as well. There's a couple very new scams that have popped up, and I'll go over those really quick. And so one of the newer ones is you get a phone call, and what they're trying to do, and it relates to all the scams that we just talked about, and they want to hear your voice. So they want to ask you something that you're going to say yes to. So you might get a phone call, you have no clue who this person is. So you go, hi, do you live in Atherton? And you go, yes. Well, they just recorded your voice. And then if you think of all the artificial intelligence stuff, all the technology that we have, they could potentially take that voice and make it sound like you're talking. And then what do? They go call one of your family members. Hey, they're really hurt. They need your help. What, can you help us? We need money. And then, Mom, you there? Dad, you there? You okay? Yes. And now they got you. Now that family member might be more inclined to send that money over. So be very careful of that. the quicker you could disconnect with these people again, the better off you are, because they want to hear you talk. They want to hear your voice. They want you to engage with them. So do not engage with them. Another interesting one, this is actually a case from last week, and we hadn't seen this one before, but it's someone, they're on the internet, they're just doing their thing, and a pop-up comes up. They click on the pop-up. A lot of times when we see these things, it's an advertisement, it's offering a deal, something of that nature. If it's too good to be true, it's too good to be true, and it's probably fraudulent. So don't even click on it. And what this one did is this pop-up came up, they clicked on it, it downloaded a virus onto their computer that they did not know about. And what that virus did is it allowed the suspects to remote access into their computer. And so I'm sure everyone can think of all the stuff that we have in our computers. We have our driver's license numbers, our social security, our banking information, our entire lives could be in our phones and our computers. And that simple click on that random pop-up that came up of, that looks like a good deal, or, oh, that looks kind of cool, allow that person to download that virus onto their computer, their remote access into the computer, and this person had no clue that it happened until they took money out of the bank accounts, until they started charging on the credit cards. And by then, it's too late. So be very, very careful of the internet safety as well when clicking on pop-ups, things like that. There's actually one, I talk about this one as well. It actually happened to my wife. And we've got kids, they're growing up. So we're trying to purge and get rid of a lot of their like old toys that they just don't play with. As soon as we pull them out, they start playing with them again. So we've got to hide them and then get them out of the house. Different thing with that though. But she was selling stuff on Facebook Marketplace. And her email is obviously attached to that so they could contact her. Well, what they did is they reached out and said, hey, we're interested in buying this. I want to make sure that you're a real person and you're not trying to defraud me. And that's the suspect saying, I want to make sure you're a real person. You're going to get an email with a code. Email me that code back so I know that you're a real person. What they did is they took her email, tried to log into her Google account and hit the reset password button. And she got the email saying, this is your reset password code. And if she were to send that code to them, guess what? Now they have the code, they're logging into her email, they're changing the passwords, and they have access to everything in her email. Luckily, happy end, she didn't sell the thing, but she also she figured it out and put 2 and 2 together, so she's okay. So no issues there. So be careful of that. Another thing, we haven't had this too recently, but we did have a little bit last year, is we had a couple of robberies. And what they're doing is they're trying to find people who are walking around town wearing jewelry, watches, necklaces, and then they're targeting people that are doing that. And what they'll come up and do is they'll be like, oh my gosh, I haven't seen you in so long. Come here, give me a hug. And you're like, what's happening? And you don't even know what's happening till they've got their arms around you and they're hugging you. Well, what they're doing is they're taking your jewelry. They're taking your watch, they're taking your necklace, they're taking your wallet. And these people are very good at what they do. They practice what they do. So we had a couple of these in town where they actually removed a watch and a necklace and put fake costume jewelry back on the person without them ever even noticing. And that is quite the sleight of hand. Like that's a professional right there, but it's possible that these things do happen. And so if you're out walking around town, think about what your surroundings are. If there's a car that's driven you by a few times, if you see someone who's just like, hey, that person looks kind of weird, follow your gut with that kind of stuff. Call the police department. We're more than happy to help. We've got very good professional officers who will come out, treat everyone respectfully, and just try to figure out what it is that's going on. But trust that kind of intuition, that gut feeling that you have. And a lot of what we see too is when people are walking around town, what are they doing? When you're doing that, you have completely cut out the entire outside world. And so that person that's following you and has been following you for the last 2 or 3 miles, you probably would have seen them if we didn't have our heads down in our phones. So just be careful of things like that. And then think of your personal body boundary and make it wherever your comfort level is, think of where that is, and no strangers get in contact. No one violates that body boundary that you have. It could be 5 feet, 10 feet, 2 feet, whatever it is. But if anyone starts encroaching on that, hey, no, back up. I don't know you. Get away from me. Stay away. I don't know who you are. You tell me who you are first. And then maybe if I remember you, I'll give you that hug or shake your hand. But try that distance can be your friend. So try to keep that distance from any people who are trying to approach you and you don't know who they are. One of the things I love telling people, if someone's getting too close, oh, you know what, dude, I have COVID. I got a little scratchy throat, might be COVID. You should probably keep your distance. And people tend to respond to that and they'll kind of back off and go away a little bit. So be wary of people trying to encroach on your personal space. And if they do, back up, hey, leave me alone. And then that'll help you back up. So kind of in summary a little bit when we're talking about fraud, if anyone asks you for your full name, don't give it to them. Don't give out your driver's license number. Don't give anyone your date of birth. Don't give anyone your social security number. Don't give out any passwords to anything. Don't give out credit card information, banking information. And even now, I wouldn't even give out my email unless I actually know someone. If someone's calling me, asking me for this information, that's weird. I don't know who they are. I have no way to verify who they are. I'm going to hang up and then I'm going to look up whoever they were calling from, and I'm going to call them directly with the phone number that I find to make sure that it's real. It's different if I'm calling my bank than I'm providing them that information because I'm the one that made that call. But if someone is calling me and I can't verify who they are and they're asking me all these questions, I am not going to answer any of them and I am hanging up the phone because they can actually get, just by a simple Google search, find your name, your address, your phone numbers. So they could be very convincing. They can call you and say, hey, Joe, great to see you. You know, we saw you over here and your last name's this and your address is this and this is your phone number. You've got this really great deal. Now all I need is your driver's license number and your social security number, and we'll put it in the mail and send it out to you. And as soon as you give them that, it's out on the dark web. And guess what? You better be watching your bank accounts and everything else because you might see some money start trickling away. So be very wary of the information that you're putting out. And then one of the last things I'll kind of touch on is the home security. And so we have been unfortunately getting a few burglaries in town. They've been starting to taper off a little bit, knock on wood. But we are doing everything we can to try to mitigate these, stop these. What we're seeing is people are breaking glass windows, glass doors. They're going in and then they're in just a couple of minutes. They're targeting jewelry, handbags, safes, and then they're back out in a couple minutes and they're on their merry way. And by the time we get the alarm activation, they're potentially gone. But in order to kind of mitigate some of this, there are definite easy things that everyone could do to try to be safe. The first one, make sure all your doors and windows are locked when you're not home. Make it look like someone's home, add some lights, put some partitions down where no one could see inside of the house. You go to a lot of the homes in Atherton and they're absolutely incredibly beautiful homes, and you go to the backyards and everything is glass and you could look right into the house and see if anyone is home or not. And what we think is happening is they're going into backyards, they're watching homes, and they're able to look in and just sit there quietly in the bushes, behind a tree, in the shadows where they're not seen, they're just watching the house. And then once they see, hey, nobody's here, that's when they go in and they commit their crime. And they break the window. Even if the door's unlocked, they're probably still going to break the window. It's not about the doors being locked or unlocked necessarily, because what they're trying to do is not set off your alarm. If they go and they jiggle that door and they open up the door and the alarm's on, it's going to sound the alarm. If the door is closed and they smash through the window and they scurry in that way, unless there's a glass break sensor, that alarm is most likely not going to go off. And so use the alarms, make it look like someone's at home. If you have an exterior gate, keep that closed. These are all just very simple, easy things that everyone could do. And then another thing that we see quite commonly is if you have your alarm, make sure you use it, and then find out what the protocol is through your alarm company. Who do you call first when the alarm goes off? Because there are times where people have their alarm set up and it's like, okay, I want you to call me, then I want you to call my brother, then call my uncle, then call my neighbor, and then call the police. Well, by the time they make it through that phone list, 10, 5, 20 minutes have already passed by the time we get the alarm. And by the time we're responding, they are long gone out of the city already. And so ask your alarm company, hey, who do you call once the alarm goes off? And if you're willing, try to put the police department right on top of that list right after you, so we can get that call, because our response time is incredibly fast here in Atherton. We're usually at these alarms within a few minutes of them going off. And so the quicker we can get our response, the quicker we could get there and potentially apprehend whoever it is that's committing these crimes. Do I have time for a little questions?
One question.
Sure.
That says, people have been asking, when will we be able to connect to the the police department alarm system with cell phones and whatever?
So that is a project that is currently ongoing. It's a project that we started and we thought, hey, this looks like a very simple, easy concept. We bought equipment, we got our IT involved, and then once we were going through the installation process, it ended up being a lot more complicated, unfortunately, than we originally thought. So that project is currently ongoing, hopefully in the next coming couple months, because we're still purchasing equipment and getting everything lined up. That is absolutely the goal that we're trying to achieve, is where we can take the alarms from landlines and also from those mobile signals. And so that is something that's in the works. As soon as we get that up and running, I think what we'll do is we'll send out some community messaging to let everyone know, hey, we're ready to accept this. Please call us, and we're able to do that.
Thank you. Great.
Yes.
When it just appeared, and it said, you know, don't turn your computer off, whatever. So I got to know technical, and, you know, what they were after was reminding them of the time.
Mm-hmm.
How we get rid of it. Because every time I get up there,
Yes, and yeah, that's a great one. For anyone who's listening online, what it was is there was a statement made about a website that came up that looked identical to Apple. And what they were trying to do is get your information, and that's entirely true. You see those, and it looks just like the Apple website. It looks just like the Amazon website. I think we even had a flyer come through town that had the Amazon logo on it, and it had a little QR code and said, hey, we're doing this study. And we actually had our detective sergeant actually do the QR code to see what it was, and it had nothing to do with Amazon. And so we don't necessarily think it was a fraudulent thing where they were trying to steal people's information and use it criminally, but they were just trying to use that brand and that logo to get people to sign up for their study, and they had actually nothing to do with Amazon. So that's great. Thank you for adding that.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, everybody.
So, Jeannie, if you stand up and introduce yourself.
Yeah.
Give your background. And while she's doing that, if you want to grab some more wines or soft drinks, please do.
I'm Jeannie Marisu. I'm aging in place is what I'm here for today. I have about 20 some odd years in County Santa Clara as a respiratory care practitioner. You want me to come here? Okay. Yes. Oh, of course. So my name's Jeannie Marisu. I am an age in place specialist. You may recognize my name somewhere else. I don't know, wine maybe. So anyhow, I know maybe some of you in town, and I became an age in place specialist after many, many years of being a respiratory care practitioner. I worked for the County Santa Clara. I'm at PAMP now. And I certainly have found myself in a passion project of mine, 20 some odd years in the emergency room, retrieving patients who continually fall from home. And through COVID, spending a little time more at home, I decided that this is where my heart lays. So I'll spend a little time a little bit later talking about how to age in place safely. Okay. Oh, is it my, do you want me to? I think you're getting the rest of it.
No,
Okay.
you're on.
Oh, I'm on. Okay. Sorry. Okay. All right. Okay. Aging in place. What is aging in place? It means staying in your home as long as possible until it's safely not possible. Now, you guys live in Atherton, pretty nice. Who wants to leave their house? Nobody. Absolutely nobody. You even dialed up a perfect day. You know, it's just absolutely beautiful here. So anyhow, one of the things that we have found in aging in place is fall. So I really do concentrate on fall prevention. Okay. And one of the things that is one of the biggest problems in a home is, does anybody know what we fall on at home? What else? The biggest fall hazard inside your home is your threshold. The threshold. What- Entering and exiting the home. Yeah, that is that threshold. Sometimes thresholds throughout the house. However, entering and exiting your home is the most dangerous part of your home. Okay, and yes, everybody else is also correct. The rugs, the whatnot, all those things for sure. What about outside the house? Outside the house. Stairs, okay, yes, for sure, for sure. What else? Uh-huh, uh-huh. Water hose, sprinkler heads. Those are the other things, okay? So yes, stairs, but that's also part of the entry and exit, right? So water hoses, roll up those water hoses, get the hoses that kind of recoil back, and those sprinkler heads, right? How many of us have tripped on a sprinkler head? Now, I'm gonna give you a statistic, and it's actually quite alarming. It's true, the CDC. 70% of people over the age of 75 who fall, that's their cause of death. Okay, think of that. You're over the age of 75, 70% of the people pass from that fall. Fall-related injury. It could be also the pneumonia post. This is how I am so passionate about this. Many years ago, I had a patient. I was teaching cardiac rehab, pulmonary rehab. I'm not quite sure where the patient was from, but if anybody's ever done that, it's a class that you come in for 3 months and we take care of you until you are strong and ready. And Susie was a patient of mine, and she was telling me that they had just sold their home because her husband was a little bit more advanced in age than her, but she could no longer care for him. And this is when everything came home to me. I think it must have been last day, her blood pressure was very high. And I said, Susie, what's going on? This is not your normal, this is not your normal state. And she says, well, Jeannie, I just came from the accountant today. And, we spent all this time in our lifetime buying this perfect house, and we've made a lot of money on it. We just sold it. We just signed on it. And she said, thinking that with the money we made from it, we were going to be able to sustain life and some kind of care, whatever care they chose. And she says, you know what? We didn't realize how much money this was going to cost us. And we didn't realize that my husband was going to have an injury at this early on in life. She says, we have 20 years. That's why. And she started to cry. And what that meant was collectively, they had 20 years that they were going to be dying broke. Okay. And she even said, this is very candid. This is a very candid conversation. My husband's not going to live 10 years. So I'll add that to my side. But my kids aren't getting anything, even if you don't have it. Either way, that stress of life is something that I did not realize. I was maybe 42 at the time, and I didn't think about, I was not anywhere near retirement or thinking about all those things. These are all the things we have to think about, and I was heartbroken. I was angry. I was all those emotions, and I just couldn't believe this was the state of where we all are. These are the decisions we have to make. And one of the things that was making us all broke was falls. So I continued to do my thing, but this is how I started to brew, and this is how my heart actually got very soft for the fact that if we are all lucky enough, we get to live a long life. Working in the emergency room, I know we don't always get that, but congratulations for everybody who's had a long life, and this is the goal. So let's do it as carefully, as safely, and stay active and do all of those things, and just do some minor adjustments in a home that can make a significant difference. Okay. This picture here, I like this house, whether you like the aesthetic. Why do we like this house? It's a single story. Yeah, the only thing I don't like about this house are the stairs in the front. right? We can take care of that. But there are windows, there's lighting, there's all of those things. Not everybody has a single story home or a single story home, but if you have a double story, start thinking perhaps if there's an area in your home that could be near a kitchen, bathroom, bedroom. Remodeling, remodification of those types of things are the things that I now do. So that's the first thing. 40% of nursing admissions are due to falls from home. And I'm going to give you one more statistic, is people who have fallen and have been able to go back home, 70% fall again in 30 days. Okay, so this is the next slide. Is I want you all to have a moment to think about where your baseline is today. What's your mobility? How are we cognitively? Because a third of us are going to have memory problems. A third of us, right? We keep doing our little things, try and keep our brain active, but where are we going to be 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 15 years? We think about those things. Where's your partner going to be? Are we prepared for it? Because if this ever happens, can you come back home? That's the question. Can you come back home? You're going to go to rehab for a little bit, but how do you come back home? So we want to come back home, right? So there are 3 areas that we kind of think about. Urgent. This is a traumatic event. We don't expect for this to happen. Let's say that darn sprinkler head got us, right? This is a traumatic event. There are things that we can do that are for a short time until you recover from a hip or whatnot. But then there are things that we can do and think about as we age in place that we just permanently make some decisions. So the other type of people we can choose to be are planners. That's why you're all here. You're, security. We just heard about some really, all the fraudulent activity. That's amazing. Plan. Again, think 5 years, 10 years, 15 years from now, let's plan before there's an urgent need, okay? Some of us have a progressive disorder. Let's say we just came from a physician and we now have something, it's going to progress. Slower, but nonetheless, this is still, let's plan for it and let's take care of things. Falling is, let's go to the next slide. Okay, family dynamics. Family dynamics. If this were to happen, do you think this just affects you? No, our family. You don't want your family members to have to start making emotional decisions for you also if you end up in the emergency room. That's an emotional decision, right? We want to plan. We want to plan, what if this were to happen? What do I need to do? Who is it in my life that I can care? Is it a daughter? Is it a son? Is it a spouse? Is it collectively? When I come out to a home, I like to sit with an entire family so that we have there's oftentimes a third party is much easier because sometimes family dynamics is not fantastic. Sometimes you don't even have family. So you have friends. So being open about what decisions should be made in the event we're here, okay? All right, let's go on to home modifications. Just a couple of things. Those of you, I would love for you guys to think about 4 areas in your home being the most important, okay? 4 areas. Bedroom, right? Bathroom, kitchen, living room. That's where we spend most of our life, okay? There are some can anybody think of some things that we can do to make those areas a little bit without, just things that you can just do today? Some of them were rugs, I already heard, right? How about lighting? Task lighting. Task lighting is huge, in particular in a kitchen, right? There's sharp objects there, things that break, right? More lighting, smooth countertops. So when you're pulling and pushing things, those kinds of things, they don't break. Make sure everything in your home is shoulder to hip. Okay, shoulder to hip, think about that. We don't want to pull or push things anywhere, even in the garage. Maybe you have a hobby in a craft room, whatever. Idea is to think of everything from shoulder to hip. This will save lots of back strains. This will save all kinds of things. Levers are also very good. Those are something easy that can be done. arthritis, right? You don't want to push and pull, and sometimes we just can't grab well. So levers are something else. Maneuverability, if you have the ability to move some things so that you have space around in the living room in particular, make sure your furniture is heavy. Because guess what? If you trip, you don't want to hold on to something that's lightweight. That's going to make things worse. Okay, so that's another thing to think about. Make sure that you have fewer items, that they are heavier. So if you do need to hold on to them, they will hold you. Okay, okay. Any questions about that? And we all know the handrails and the ramps, those are kind of those things, you know, a toilet that's a little bit taller, that kind of thing. Those are all things. Here's an idea of a universal design. That's something that we do with homes. A universal design is simply that. It's a design that's universal. It can be adaptive, but it does not have the word adaptive, and it doesn't even look like you have adaptive. This is a bathroom. Looks kind of stale, right? But you can do whatever you want. But what is it that we're looking for in this bathroom? Easy ability to take a shower, right? This is an idea of something like maybe a wet room. This doesn't have a drain, but do you know what a wet room is? It's the entire room is made to where there's a drain in the middle and you can just come in and out. There aren't any doors. There aren't any of those things. That's a very nice idea, and you can make it as beautiful as you want, right? But the idea is space. There might be a wheelchair at some point, right? Aren't any levers to get into, or aren't any thresholds to get into the shower? Yeah, those kinds of things. That's just an idea. Okay, kitchen. Here's the kitchen we spoke about. There's one thing I really want to, I don't know if you can see that well on this picture, but well, I love where the oven is. That's right in the middle, right? That's, you don't have to lift too far, but the task lighting over the counter. Look where the toes are on this, in this home. This is a beautiful designed home. The toes are where, if you ever had a walker, have you ever seen anybody trying to get close to a sink with a walker? The wheels come out, right? And they can't get close enough. This is made to where there's room for that. Okay. So to the eye, a universal design just looks like a beautiful, well home, but when you look really close, the countertops might be a little bit lower. Okay. You have that kick at the bottom. Everything is made to where it's dollies, things that with nice rollers, levers are great. Those are some really, if any of you are thinking of have a new kitchen, these are things that you're gonna make your life much easier. Okay. Affordability. There's the other thing we already spoke about, residential homes going in. I told you about my friend Susie, right? She couldn't afford it. Whoever thought affordability in Atherton could go in the same sentence, not me. Right? It's just not in the same sentence. But this, when you price out some of the homes that are your option, right? That's I have patients who are at the V. I have patients and there's a time when there's all of that, but I'm shocked. I am shocked at how much it is. You know, sometimes people don't want to leave their home just yet. You have your friends, you have your neighbors, and I love this idea of the wellness check. I think that's just brilliant. I mean, adapt, is that what it was? That's brilliant. You know, you've created community, and checking in on each other is great. I had an injury once in 2019, never had an injury before, but it put me in a wheelchair for a little bit. It was the first time in my life that I felt vulnerable to the world. And again, this is my passion project. I had never been vulnerable, physically vulnerable to the world. If I had to, I actually was out trying to hike a little bit, trying to get over an injury I had. I came across a mountain lion. And that was my story. That was when I thought, you know what, I'm going to get better. But at this moment, if I had to fight for my life, I couldn't. You know, I was the first time I felt vulnerable. And I have had patients for many, many decades, but seniors are my favorite people. You guys are treasures. And I want to help take care of you. And if I can answer any questions for you, anything at all, I hope to be one of you. That is what I'm hoping for, if I'm lucky enough. I'm not too far behind. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah. Yeah. So we work as construction managers. So, which means we're like an owner's rep. So we have vetted contractors and basically we work to ask questions, you ask questions, we ask the questions that we have a project manager who will do that, and then you choose a contractor of your own. Plus, we have concierge medicine, that sort of thing. So sometimes people, want more services at home, concierge physical therapy, concierge occupational therapy, those kinds of things. And those are people who've already been vetted, most of them from PAM, to be honest with you. Yeah.
So the purpose of this discussion is purely to raise the point that if you want to live at home forever, probably should be thinking about some hardware changes, some structural changes now, because if you fall, it's gonna be too late. And so the idea was, if this is a topic worthwhile, we will set a much longer session. We'll not only have the concepts, we'll have some vendors talk about it. One in particular, by the way, Asset Hardware has a program, Asset Hardware Services. Say a few words about it and then we'll move on.
Yeah, absolutely. Really quickly, can we mind just using the mic because of the Zoom meeting?
Yeah,
So that
sure.
you come on.
Real quick. Thanks, Judy.
Yeah, thank you.
Hi, I'm Kay Marie. I'm the office manager and the field coordinator for Ace Handyman Services. So just kind of a brief kind of who we are and what we do. We are associated with the Hassett Ace Hardwares. All of our employees are hired by us directly. We do not subcontract anybody out. So everybody is background checked. Everybody has been vetted by us. And then we're all licensed and bonded to do all of the kind of things you're going to need help in your home. So we can help with all of the things of preparing yourself for, we do tons of grab bar installations and things like that. But we can even do more simple things like getting on that ladder and taking care of all those things that, if you're just not sure that you should be on a ladder, reaching those high smoke detectors, they do need to be checked. They do need to be changed. Everyone knows how annoying that beeping is. It doesn't mean that you should get on a ladder if it's not something that your doctor has maybe recommended. So we can come in and help with all the little things. We do electrical work, plumbing work, and then kind of any, exterior work around your house or, things like grab bars, ramps. We can even do bigger projects like shower enclosures. We can make them curbless so that you can walk right in. The drain's still where it is, but all the tiles in your bathroom are prepared to accept all that water that is going to be spraying there. And it all comes down and back into your shower. So those are all things that we can do. And that is all.
So we're not endorsing that, but we're saying there are guys like that out there. Good.
Ace Handyman Services. Yeah, like ACE, like the hardware store. Yeah, of course.
So again, the purpose here was to just raise the idea that if you want to stay in your house, you may have to make some mechanical changes to it. And it's going to be too late if you have an accident or a fall. So think about it in advance. If this is a topic people want to see in greater detail, we'd have a longer discussion. It would have Ace Hardware Services, actually it's Hassett Hardware, and others there. So we'd have a collection of various alternatives. So if that's what we're going to do, we'll do a much bigger deal later on. The last conversation before we break into the breakout groups is with Peter from PAMF in reference to geriatric medicine. I've been a member of PAMF for, 30 years. I didn't know there was geriatric medicine. And so when we heard about it, we thought, gee, here's an opportunity because many of us have internists but don't know that there is such a thing at PAMF and other locations. So Peter, if you'd introduce yourself and say a few words, we'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So good afternoon, everybody. Is this a decent volume? Can you folks hear me okay? This is actually, it's an honor and for me, I feel it's an honor for me to be here and connecting with you folks. This is actually my first post-pandemic presentation. It's now become live plus virtual. So I'll say hi to the virtual folks. I'm not used to this. I hope I can connect with you meaningfully in our time together. Ken had asked me to come. I was sort of expecting a Shark Tank environment. It's a TV show. I don't know if it's my kid's favorite show. And they said, Daddy, you have to really do this. So I didn't realize I was going to walk into a city council. I mean, I was a little nervous sitting there, and then the mayor's here and courtroom sitting. So help me get through this. I know we're running a little bit behind. So I hope to be able to give you a flavor of what I do and what I'm passionate about. So maybe maybe 3 short conversations. We can have next slide, please. First is, folks know who that is, right? Jack LaLanne, the juice man, the amazing, amazing American who's really inspired a lot of us to be as healthy and live as well as possible and to age in place. So could that be you? Second conversation is, I actually do feel like we're living in a lot of paradoxes in our society right now. People have been sort of predicting and sort of talking about what's called the silver tsunami. I don't know if that sounds familiar to you, but there's a lot of us aging at the same time. I mean, the country, actually the world has never been this old. So it's exciting to be aging, but definitely lots of paradoxes that I see from my professional lens. And the last is just to tell you a little bit about what my medical specialty does and how we could potentially be the ecosystem of age-friendly care that I think this a lot of what we're trying to do is trying to do today. So let's go to the first. So here are some pictures now coming up. Let's try this next. Actually, just a very short story, a made-up story. Could this be you? Next slide. This is an 83-year-old dishwalker. So probably many of us go to the dish regularly. So this is a made-up professor. So let's say she was a education school professor emeritus. She's also a longtime Athertonian and longtime patient of my medical group, Palo Alto Medical Foundation, and also wants to age in place. And she lives successfully at home with quite a few chronic medical diagnoses: high blood pressure, high cholesterol, diabetes, arthritis. She has vision challenges from macular degeneration and asthma, and also has been diagnosed with depression. Takes 8 medications and some supplements. Let's try the next slide, please, because this lady slipped. It was a sunny day. She was just taking her walk and doing what she usually does, and the unexpected happened. Let's say a squirrel ran across, and then she couldn't catch herself and slip on something on the ground, and then she's on the ground, and her Apple Watch went off. Are you okay? So she ended up actually in the emergency room. This is like on a normal day. It's a lady who does all sorts of stuff, enjoying, many things that life has to offer. And she ended up with a broken wrist and a broken hip, this side and this side. I see folks like this pretty much on a regular basis professionally as a doctor, helping people get properly diagnosed, get properly treated, and undergo like a very, very arduous road to recovery, not sure if they're gonna get back to their prior state. Could this be you? Here are some pictures. Let's try the next picture, please. Do folks know this picture? Yeah, so Some folks see this as, oh, I'm high fashion Paris woman with a beautiful hat and this is the side profile. I also see a beautiful woman differently, maybe older woman with, I think maybe some kind of winter coat. Are you folks seeing the two pictures? And you probably have seen it before. I'm sorry, I can't point very well. But this is a question that is one of the paradoxes. What do you see yourself? One of the questions I ask all my patients, well, how old do you feel today? I think how we approach the question of how we're aging, I feel like depends on our perspectives and our approach and how effective I'm as a doctor is to connect with that patient and figure out what matters most for that patient. Let's try one more picture. The next picture. Oh yeah. So you've seen this in health class maybe, and some of you could have been, or maybe our teachers. So this, you might think of aging and health as things you want to do and have earned to do and just experiencing life as a journey. Traditional American healthcare sees you oftentimes as a collection of organ systems. Oh, I need the best heart doctor possible. I need an eye guy who to do my cataracts. And, some of our colleagues at PANF are well known for joint replacement. So healthcare is very much divided and has been categorized for decades into specialists. And it's very difficult as a patient, in my opinion, to try to put it all together. And what does this all mean for me as I age? Let's try one more picture. Yeah, so healthcare is fragmented, it's expensive. It's a big business in this country. And one more, please. So this is a picture with, I'm gonna call these grandparents plus maybe a very cute grandkid. This picture is to remind me to ask you to ask the following question. Now, if there are specialists, medical specialists for kids, and kids have different developmental stages, right? A newborn, toddler, preschool, school, tween, teenager. There are all these stages, and they have doctors who are specialists at really supporting. How come there aren't that many aging specialists in this country? Let me tell you about my medical specialty. Let's do next slide, please. Geriatric medicine. Oh, actually, I like the last. Yeah, it's misunderstood in so many ways in this country, and it's actually fairly unpopular for doctors to choose this field. Those of us who do it, it's a calling. One time, one of my colleagues and mentor, and I was in the East Coast, and they decided to go out. This is a city of Baltimore. I don't know how many of you know Baltimore. There's Inner Harbor. It's in the summertime, very lively, very happening place. So they decided to interview people. Hey, what is geriatric? And boy, people have no idea. The best answer that I got is, well, people who sell Ben and Jerry's ice cream. So not quite. Yeah, so let's try to define it a little bit. So it is a medical specialty. So those of us who are in geriatric medicine are graduates of medical schools. We do postgraduate training generally in internal medicine and sometime in family medicine. So we have a lot of DNA of being primary care physicians. But we wanted to do more and specialize and really be thinking about making the world a better place for aging. So extra training on top of that. And yeah, we see folks 65 to over 100. And what I love to help people figure out is, well, where do you stand on the aging journey? You know, what's going well, what's not, and what's meaningful to you? Let's try the next slide. And we love working in teams. You know, a lot of what we do, we really depend on teams within, you know, my department as well as community-based partners. So we write plenty of tacit prescriptions. We've done that many times, and we have great partners, care managers whom we work with, therapists that we talked about. And so a lot of our prescriptions, guess what, are not pills. Let's try the next slide, please. And you know, a lot of our patients are amongst the most complex medically. Really requires a lot of out-of-the-box thinking and making the complex feel more simple, and also to give people hope and to design a very person-centered type of solutions. And we would love to really help folks in more of the proactive rather than reactive care. American healthcare is really good at reactive care. After something's happened, you know, the hospital's ready for you. You know, so I'd rather folks think together with us about prevention. Let's see what the next slide is. Yeah, so this is almost my last slide. So I love that there is something called the age-friendly cities. Okay, so there's a movement, WHO, World Health Organization movement, been around for, I guess, maybe about 15 years or so. Concurrently within the healthcare arena, there are really pioneers with what's called the IHI, the Institute for Healthcare Improvement, and also my professional society, the American Geriatric Society, that really also is trying to make the healthcare system a bit more age-friendly too, because it really historically has not been. And one way to make the complex simple is to teach and use framework of you know, what that is less disease-centric or less organ-based kind of way to define why someone isn't feeling or doing well, but to focus on what's now called the 4 M's, the 4 M's of health, the age-friendly health systems. So this is pretty much a playbook for what we do in my office too, as well as consultants. The very top M is, well, what matters most to a patient? You know, the healthcare has really not always asked that. So you think about your own journeys with interactions with healthcare. That isn't all. You can't always. You don't always get that. You know. So. And we might come back to that later, maybe when we have small group. But the other M's that we talked about, fall prevention, I think, a lot today. So that's the mobility bucket. You know, how do I help a patient stay mobile, upright, balance, core strength, endurance, and pick the right equipment so you can continue to live and do what matters most to you. So that's a core part of what we do. We'll switch over to the right side, the green circle, medications. double-edged sword. I mean, that's probably a whole session at least unto itself. How many pills do you take and why do you take them? And a lot of what we do in my field is not necessary to prescribe pills. Instead, it's to de-prescribe pills. And a lot of our patients actually feel much better and do much better with better outcomes. And the blue one on the bottom is actually kind of a big balloon. The age-friendly folks use the word mentation. It actually stands for many, many things that has to do with your mind and your soul. You know, how is my brain aging? You know, is what I'm experiencing now related to an aging brain, or am I at risk for some undiagnosed disease? And what do I do with it? And what are ways I can get help to continue to do what matters most to me? And really, a lot of the time is me and my family. Another part of the AM is really how, you know, emotions and emotions of aging, you know, as you traverse your own journey, what are the bumps on the road and how is your soul? You know, and if one were to be diagnosed with depression, like the example of the lady, what kind of help is really out there? How do I access the help? Do I have doctors and nurses that can help me identify and help me get the treatment that I need? So mobility, mentation, medication, what matters most. These are, I would say, multi-organ type of diagnosis. You know, so you are not gonna get a lot of this from your organ-specific medical specialty. I might have one more slide. Let's see. Oh yeah, and this slide is what I do with probably half of my professional life right now in terms of seeing patients. So we my department, we serve as medical specialists. We help people, doctors and their patients understand where they stand. We do assessments with the 4Ms. You come to us, we get to know you as a person. We take time and we help you and your family understand where you stand with some of the measurements that we do. And we help you identify and find reasonable solutions that will allow you to continue to fulfill your aging goals. And I think I have one last slide. Yeah. So I grew up with this saying. So in my family, you know, we eat rice with chopsticks. And you know, definitely I think I was raised to say, you know, we're all on this earth in a very finite and very short time. It would be a shame for us to not connect more and work together. So my dad always say, you know, if you got one chopstick, Peter, break it. Got a bunch together. It's really strong. So I'm honored to have had time together to connect with you all, to really be part of the town of Atherton's journey to become an age-friendlier city. So my department and I are happy to do our part to be part of the ecosystem and see what we can do together. Yeah, thank you, everybody. Thank you for your time.
Articles that suggest there is going to be significant increases in longevity. One article said that the first person who lived to 150 has probably already been born. Have you guys thought about that stuff, and do you have any insight into it?
Yeah, I get asked that a lot. So, you know, we have this fountain in my office. And we tell people, oh, that's not the fountain of youth. We don't serve that stuff. It's a very interesting question. It's also its own, I think its own sort of discussion. There's definitely many people interested in that field. And some of the stuff that has really has shown promise over the years, it's actually pretty hard to follow. You know, if you fed rats very little food, they actually do live longer. It's kind of hard for many of us to do some of that stuff. There's studies that are going to be very, very interesting with some certain parts of the cell called mitochondria. So there, you know, I would love to definitely want people to live long, but also function well. You know, that's kind of my personal value as I help people and learn from my patients. Because, you know, 88, someone who's 88 compared to another person who's 88, what are they able to do and want to do in life? Some of my patients would prefer, you know, it's the quality over quantity of life equation. Yeah, but absolutely a lot of work out there, and definitely, I think beyond the scope of maybe this conversation, but we can have a cup of coffee and chat more for sure.
Really quickly before you go on, do you mind paraphrasing or reiterating the question being asked so that the people on Zoom can thank you?
So I'll just kind of, so sorry, Zoom folks. The question was about age, about longevity. You know, what is, are we going to continue to be able to prolong lifespan? Because we as a human race have done a lot already in the last century, you know, so yeah, it's a very interesting question. Thank you. I think we have one in the back, please.
Gravitate to your referral. Decide you want to do that. You guys incorporate already working on your team. How does that work?
Yeah. So happy to answer that. So the question is about access to geriatric medicine care. I will speak to how my organization, how we've thought about it, and sort of our framework. And there is a one pager here, you know, that kind of gives some summary points, and also my business card. There are so few of us that do this work in my organization, even though we are actually one of the largest geriatric medicine groups in the Bay Area outside of academia. We realized, you know, we couldn't answer the question for many, many patients that we get calls about this pretty much every week. Can you be my primary care physician? So in my medical group, it is not realistic for us to do that. You know, so we are best served as consultants. So it's a referral-based process. We don't make it onerous for folks. We prefer that folks work with their physicians to make a referral to us. We love to engage and involve your primary care physician as well as whichever physician refers you. But definitely you could self-refer. And in general, we have more access to your health data, and we can be better detectives if you are part of the, you know, Sutter Health ecosystem, if you're one of our patients. But definitely, you know, if you, we've seen plenty of folks from outside of Sutter Health, and, you know, we do our best to help out. Yeah, but it's a pretty simple process, phone call, and there's referral linkages in our electronic healthcare record system if your doctor belongs to us. Maybe one question here as well. Same question, right? Yeah, yeah, and I'll also answer maybe the second part of the question. So palliative care, we consider a sister department of us. Palliative care dives in deeper on what matters most in general in with limited life expectancy. And also consider medical specialists in our system as well. It's very rich topic, advanced care planning, symptom management. Some of our patients have very advanced cancers with pain, and many times there are different components to pain. Is a lot more than giving meds, and both departments are very much value collaborating and working together with both patients and their families and loved ones.
Let me ask again. So I've got an internist at Banff. I've got another 7 organ specialists. You don't replace them. You augment them, is that what you do? So you look across all of them, and they not, because quite frankly, they're kind of silent. And they kind of talk to each other, but not as well as they should. It sounds like you're the glue between all. Is that true? Or is that right?
So the question is, what is geriatric? What is the role of geriatric medicine? I would call it maybe a special type of glue, because sometimes people in American healthcare system, the primary care physician generally has been tasked with the glue job. It's like a really, really hard job. So the primary care doctors are generally considered the glue and in charge of your care. I would call us a special layer of support, focus on what matters most. There are no fall specialists out there, for example, and falls happen all the time. If you got more than 2 falls in a year, I mean, you're in a certain risk factor. Right, so we help you figure out how to reduce your risk. So the 4 M's, I think it's a really decent way for us to be focused. But certainly we're trained as internists, certainly many things we could do to impact care. And many times we, feel like it is best for us, because there's so few of us, to really try our best to stay within our lanes and within the age-friendly framework would be the best way to do it.
Do you have a question? Thank you. Okay, so it's 5:30. We promised we'd get out of here soon. We originally had planned to have you guys get into the tables and talk about, again, what topics are important to you, and as well, what days would be good or not good to do them. If you still want to do that, we'd be happy to do that. But in addition, if you want to have a little further conversation with any of our speakers, that can be done as well. So what do you guys want to do? Discussion groups? And you don't mind if a speaker joins your discussion group, do you? Would you guys willing to do that? Got time? Yeah. Okay, so why don't you guys grab 5 tables or make them to 4, whatever. And the topic should be pick a leader. And the topic should be what items would you really like to hear in more depth? Give us a few and give us some dates. And the other thing is these books, if someone wants that book, please take it. If more than one person wants it, flip a coin. But it's interesting. It won the 70 Flood Circle Award for best books last year. Which is my address, by the way. Anyway, so if I could you please then start a discussion? In about 20 minutes, we'll come back and ask you a report. Is it okay? Great, thanks.
Do you want to say goodbye to the folks online?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we'll shut off now, but you'll get a report as to what happened on our website, correct? We'll have, thank you for being online. We really much appreciate it. Thanks. Take care.